break, and we'll begin for the next session of 4 talks. First, we'll begin with Martin Schwartz, who will talk about the Haoma and the Gathas Revisited.
Yes, there should be a single sheet which is handwritten and says addendum, and a triple sheet, a multiple copy. So there are one single copy and then a multiple copy. Pardon me for interrupting your introduction.
Oh, that's perfectly all right.
Everyone have this stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'll address the history of Haoma with a Gothic focus, applying new compositional approaches. Etymologically, Haoma refers to preparation in a mortar, so it doesn't refer to any specific substance but that which is prepared in a mortar. It is a divinized extract of a plant described in Yasnas as chlorophyllac, with stems, twigs, and flowers, and its consumption is an important part of Zoroastrian ritual. Roman numeral 1. Before my discoveries as to Gothic composition, I wrote my part of a 1989 book with David Flattery, the book Haoma and Harmelin, where we argued that there were originally 2 Haoma plants, the psychotropic Paganum harmala, also known as harmel, and ephedra. Ephedra, unless prepared with harmel, has no effects when it's cold pressed. It has some stimulant effects, but only when it is boiled, not when it is cold pressed. So we have 2 substances. Quite early on, the effectless ephedra came to be the only Haoma, so that for many centuries, Haoma has been ephedra. We didn't know exactly why this was, what the factor in the replacement of Haoma was, but I now say that this was due to Zarathustra's opposition to the intoxicating harmel Haoma. Well, Zarathustra, as a Zautar priest, at some point likely experienced bad results from the drug. The Haoma cult represented a rival source of priestly authority. So, apart from his personal experiences with it, which, as you'll see, could be messy, I think he resented this traditional source of authority and opposed it. Roman 2. In 3 articles of 2006, I noted that the Gathas contain pejorative allusions to what must have been the pre-Zarathustrian prototype of the Younger Western text called the Hôm Yasht. Can everyone hear me okay? Oh, good. In this Hôm Yasht, Hôm Yasht now consists of Yasnas 9, 10, and 11. Zarathustra is shown as an enthusiast of Haoma. I think this is a response to an opposition by the followers of Zarathustra to Haoma. Okay. Roman 3. Yasna 32:10 attacks the Haoma cult by rearranging words and phrases found in the Hôm Yasht, today's Hôm Yasht, Yasna 9, 29 to 31. It's just a few verses. And so Roman 3, the parodic arrangement of words from the Yasna. In the handout, it should be the word wainanhe, not augda, which is underscored. And then you get the phrases to see the cow with one's eyes of evil, ashibya, a pejorative word for eyes, already pejorized before Zarathustra, therefore, and the rare phrase lifting the weapon, both words attested only in the two texts, and the phrase with regard to the righteous person, for or against the righteous person, as applies to the text in question. In addition, it's not in handout, the phrase Wastra Wiwapat, which should be translated as throws the pastures apart, echoes the Hôm Yasht, Wisha Waipahe, Wastra Wiwapat, Wisha Waipahe, the latter meaning tossing poisons about. So he substitutes that with throws pastures apart. Roman 4. The word Haoma itself is hidden at 3210. Haoma na Srawa Orandat. That man indeed skews words, makes words go in the wrong place. So how, that one, ma indeed, or maybe me. Read them together, you get Haoma, so that you now can read via Haoma, instrumental. A man skews words, and so forth and so on. So there is hidden, but in full hearing, as it were, the word Haoma just before the quotation from, or the intentional misquotation from the Hôm Yasht. And this punning breakage of Haoma reflects the Gothic taboo on precise naming of evil beings. Number one, thus the direct formulation Angra Manu is avoided in the Gathas. Examples 1a through D. Angro Magnete almost gives you Angra Manu, but no. And various paraphrases of the meaning of Angra Manu, the wicked spirit, the spirit who is wicked, the spirit who is bad, etc. In E, and E should be followed by the name of Sims Williams, not D. The taboo is continued in the saga in the word Shimnu from worse mind with mixed etymology from Achia Manu, the worse mind. And by the way, the traditional word for God, Yazatech, and indeed the old gods Mithra, Vayu, Apam, Napat, and so forth, are merely alluded to collectively in the Gathas as Daiwas. And I can show from the reconstruction of the old parts of the hymn to Haoma, the octosyllabic parts, that the word Daiwa in its pejorative sense of demon versus Vedic and Urastani God, that's pre-Zarathustrian. So Zarathustra did not change the meaning of Daiwa. He did not want to name the Daiwas, and he just called them the devils, the demons, as he did the followers of such divinities too. They were also demons for Zarathustra. Number 2, the mythic founder of the Haoma cult was named as per the Hôm Yasht and the cognate Vedic by a present participle, Wiwanghuant, the radiant. But in the Gathas is pejorized with a form which would have the same nominative, namely Wiwangho, but is shown in our text as what appears to be the genitive of a perfect participle. Therefore, one who show Yamaschit would mean Yima, the son of him who was once radiant but has now faded. B. But Wiwanghushou would also be the same Wiwanghushou form as a word play would have privative we, as in Wijua, not living, and Shah from the root Hun, as in Vedic Pashu, Shah, gaining, winning, cattle, so that it will be we, one who sha, he who gains nothing good or doesn't gain anything good. And this would then be, as a nominative, used of Yima himself, he who has earned that which is not good. Now, our Gothic poems are intricately connected compositionally by what I call serially correspondent, recursive, intertextual mechanics. More on that in a minute. But, by the way, I'll be using the acronym SCRIM, and I'll explain that in a second. But before we talk about SCRIM, ring composition, symmetrical structure. The middle, if there are two stanzas, not only correlate with the first and the last stanzas, but if there are two in the center, with one another, so that we wang husho, if it's from the root han, and yima from the root yam, in the very next line, the very next stanza in our text, are sent up in terms of yima, in terms of he robs, apa yam from the root yam, the good earning, the earning, the welcome earning, hatim from the root han, of good mind. So there is a wordplay on the wordplay, so to speak, complex enough. Please look at the next page, where I have a scrim chart from Schwartz, 2002, in the bibliography that has snuck in after Gippert, but it's important, and please take note of that for future. Schwartz 2002, where I discussed the principles of ring composition and what I now call scrim, serially correspondent, recursive, intertextual mechanisms. And in this chart here, if you look down to 38.2, we wang hu show, you see it correlates with hu shanam, good earning. So not earning good, not having a good earning good, correlate. And there's also we wang hu show sounds like we wang hatu. So sometimes you have sound plays as well. This is then correlation of systematic correlation of the hypothesis I offered, which by itself would be questionable. Look down, please, at Hicha, or rather look up at Hicha, 3214b. Hicha, I think that should be a long I there. Hicha, correlating with Haichat Aspana, ancestor of him who has splashing horses. Haichat from the same root as Hich. Down now in Roman numeral 6, you see that confirms Jost Gippert's parallel with a Soma text. That article of Gippert is quite relevant, and there Gippert suggests that the texts War, Chaw, Hicha are segmented thusly and are not a word War, Chaw, Hicha. So you see this scrim matter is of general interest for the Gathas, and in this case it confirms something about Haoma being mentioned, namely it's being sprinkled or poured daily. Number 2, in Romans 6, we have Rausha at 32:14 as cult epithet of Haoma, just as in the Yasnas. Everyone knows Durausha. Here it says, Duraushem sauchayat avo, burns Durausha as help, in reference to the smoky burning of the seeds of the plant which is called in Persian esfand, harmal. In Persian you have the phrase esfand sukhtan, esfand dud kardan, referring to the smoky apotropaic burning of harmal, a common custom among all Iranian peoples still today. Romans 7, please. Yasna 48, 7 to 12 of the Gathas constitute a concentric proto-poem. And what a proto-poem is, I've described systematically in Yasna, in Schwartz, 2002. Some of the poems can be broken up into 2 parts, each of which is a ring composition, and the 2 parts go together in a larger composition eventually. So by the scrim chart, we see how the lexical skeleton of 48, 7 to 12, which is a proto-poem, is based on proceeding backwards. And if you look at that chart, look at 3216b, Shayans Mazdo Yehya Ma Atishit Dwaitha, a long phrase which has a correlation in 48, 9ab, as well as these other correlations. So Wisenta and Wisente are the only occurrences of such a word in the Gathas. They correlate. So in 5 minutes I'll have spoken 20 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I may go into the question period. Let's look at Roman 8, which you see translated here. When will men take up positions in accord with my mantras? When will one beat down the filth of that intoxication, whereby through that malignant plant, feminine angraya, the Karapan priests bring about seizures, as do the misrulers of their land with their intellect. And from 2 to 6, you have some elucidations. So Ajan, in the Diligani language, Diligani has the preverb ajani, to beat down, the matter of feces, and so forth. That's an effect of Paganum Harmala. The word rupaya can be translated both in terms of Vedic rup, to produce visceral racking via certain intoxicating substances, and both to rob and snatch. And angraya would be opposed to spenta, namely paganum harmala. Angra ring compositionally stands against spenta, and please look at the extra sheet. Where I explain certain of these items more closely. Importantly, Bipron, in this loose handwritten sheet. Muthrem means feces, it cannot mean urine. If you look at the Videvdog passage, well actually there are 2 of them, where you have lists of contaminating substances. You'd expect feces there, and there is muthra. Urine doesn't make much sense because it's a cleansing substance, but you need muthra here as feces, and Middle Dutch cognate bears that out. Sanskrit muthra itself has evolved in its semantics, so we can't say that this refers to urine. I've said this for a long time. As for the word spenta, meaning paganum harmala, feminine, pashtu sponda, oroshari sipon, vashiashtioni, spanda, all feminine, refer to the harmal plant, as of course does Persian esfand and so forth. And for urupayanti, I posit a zugma or a schlecher from basic seize to cause seizure when in one line it refers to the priests. That is bringing about the racking abdominal pain. When it refers to the evil rulers, it refers to robbery and plunder. And that is confirmed by the text itself, which speaks of the robbery of property by evil, prestigious people. We're reading Monthreich, and this is an example of how scrim charts are important in determining words. Monareich in Yasna 4810 has been a crux. It's a hapax. It's a hex. It's a lot of words that end in X, but never mind. But I emended as Monthreich, as did Andreas. And there are some parallel passages where you have Monthreich as getting rid of something bad through the mantras. And if you consider how the old manuscripts may have, earliest manuscripts may have had this line with an error, perhaps. So the original was Monthreich. The scribe was copying it, and here's narrow, and maybe a handsome woman or a pretty boy or a lovely horse walked by, and the scribe was distracted and said, oops, forgot the narrow, put the narrow here as a correction, and then someone put the narrow over here, so you get monaroish, which one can etymologize either as with murder or from murder or from reciting or whatever one wants to do by a reconstruction monry, but in fact the scrim charts that I give you on the other side of the loose page, there are two scrim charts. The first supports Monthreich, and the second, well, you have a form mono or whatever it is, Manauthreich, similar enough, certainly distant from Monaroish. Let's then Roman 9, verses 7, 8, 9, then 10, 11, 12 form a ring composition. So the first three items I list work this way. I mean, this is one pole of the text, this is the other, this is the center. I could have done it this way. In this case, I made a curve, and below that, I show the center and its correlations to the beginning and the end of the poem, so we have a little ring composition. And interestingly enough, Roman 9, these are framed by Aishma. The word Aishma, wrath of fury, is at the beginning of the poem, first word for all practical purposes, and at the end. And in the middle you have the put down of Haoma, as though Haoma is iconically the object which is refers to wrath, rather than, as we see in Roman 10, the claim preserved in the Hôm Yasht that other intoxications are accompanied by fury, which has a gory club, not glory club. Haoma's intoxication is accompanied by bliss or wasna. Roman 9 shows how the text, the Gatha, the Hati echoes the words of the Haoma claim, but negatively. I'll skip Roman 12 and just say, with regard to this Wasman bliss, Zarathustra insists that bliss is not a result of the Haoma cult, but is given in the future life as a reward for piety. And he is, in fact, obsessed by this. You can look at what I wrote about Yasna 32.1 in the Wiley Blackwell Companion to Zoroastrianism. For now, I'll just say that this concept of wasma, beginning with Yasna 32.1, is repeated in the texts. In fact, if you look at my scrim charts, which form the last three Roman numerals of my paper, there are three scrim charts. The last has even an acrostic, see Schwartz 2018. On that acrostic, Rwazma, the older form for, Vrasma for Rwazma, is an acrostic. You can look at my articles online. And so we see how all in the scrim charts, I give you three charts. If you look at the contents of the charts, you'll see how they're all very similar one to another. And this is one very interesting result of Zarathustra's opposition to the Haoma cult. So, how exactly the intoxicating Haoma was replaced by the by ephedra is unclear, but what I think is clear is that the authorship of the Gathas is due to a single historical figure who opposed a rival priesthood and their activities, and put forth a new theology and an eschatology. Doing so through an amazingly intricate but stylistically and compositionally unified poetry, who against his early anxiety about getting patronage, and this couldn't be a fictive invention to have this great person saying, who's going to patronize me? Which Zarathustra does. He worries about it. He gained his patronage. He was put on that little part of the map wherever in Central Asia he flourished. He names his patrons, so we know who they were, as he promised, and in several of his poems he puts his name in the very center of the poem, the name of a great genius, a pioneer of poetry and religion, Zarathustra. Thank you for your attention.
There won't be any questions after this presentation, and
I have a question.
We don't have time for questions because
Let's speak about it later, Dr. Tahiri.
So I would like to